이기 남으시 이기 남으시면 되고 세배 남으시면 되고 암쪽 Here we go. Mo Junde de Shabon Rajomba Yanda Barazobe page 2. Ribada Shazu Dembara Dewar Shaba Dide Jamba Devo Du Kalo Juba Lana Meba Hadam Enam Gedamba Sadi Jumdende Pegewa Shaja Tubala Chada Shudu Gazu Odumba Junde de Tijin Shevan Rajomba Yanda Barazobe Sangye Ribada Shazu Dembara Dewar Shaba Dide Jamba Devo Palo Gyuba Lana Meba Lada Menage Dumba Sange Jonde Bejawa Shaga Dubala Shatel Ochodo Jazu Che O Dumbo Jonde De Shin Sheba Rajomba Yanda Bo Zobe Sange Ribada Shazu Dema Dewar Sheba Siden Jemba Jewu Duve Kalo Juba Lana Meba Lana Minamke Jumbo Sange Jumden De Begewa Shagya Tubala Chazu Shudu Jazu Jewo Kande Gani Dowo Chetanze Sajen Dela Gomba Dumburne Ngane Jide Dena Choje Song Eze Jewa Gyola Chazu Nanda Punga Chodu Susang Wa Yeshi Gyazu Segi Humbura Chaba Jide Zuna Lame Wa Gombo Chuni Gyola Chazu Sencho Demo Teme Dawe Cha Sendo Trawa Gyola Chazu Chunda Sipa Sumaji Nyame Chiji Gyola Chazu Gombo Tuji Chedemba Tamji Jimbe Demba Sona Yende Gyazo Je Deji Chela Chazu Tabe Tuja Trewa Gyuru Gewe Nyezon Le Chidu Tendang Chugirva Shigir Gyola Chazu Drone Drove Layante Laba Lala Prate Shige Damba Yudende Gidu Layan Chazu Deba Jiyam Mijaji Gewa Pusum Sobar Rangi Sene Yonzu Du Tene Sangi Tembayi Kamarari Marmeda Gyuma Seba Chuvurda Melan Lodan Jindavu Duji Chena Didarada Sanandi Tamji Sibayi Goban Tone Kyangim Radu Nada nada shive lapchule sive sole pro To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When the supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Your immaculate 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, To you, the one God, the thusness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path of liberation, the holy field qualified with realization, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsaras, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death. Page 5. Janjo samba samba jimbo baba chebe se wanchu la dege che meso riji pu gana la sherage baru du jimbo samo cheba 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 de shidar la barcha dege che me badam janjo samba samba jimbo baba chebe se wanchu ki sedan demba shave da de bula dege che meso share bu riji buam riji bumo gana la sherage Parade Shimbo Samo Chebo Chebo Duba Didar number Tawa Chade Bumbunga Bote Dalaya Rashinje Tombar number Yandaba Jesu Tao Sutombao Tomba Ni Suso Sule Tomba Ni Shemayin Tomba Ni Lejan Sushimayino Deshindu Sorwada Dushida Dujida Number Sheba Na Tombao Sharibu de da chudamje tomba ni de tsini meba majeba magaba tima meba tima dan tewa meba ganwa meba Sharibu de da wena tomba ni la sume sorwa me dushi me dushi Nambara sheba me me nawa me name jeme lume yime zume Rame time rome rejame chume lume je kame Yije kame yije nambara shebe kanji bado yame do Mariba me Mariba seba me kashi me kashi sebe bado yame do Deshendu dunge wadang kunjung wadang go Kubada lame yishime toba me mato bayame do Sheribu Dawana Janju Sembana Toba Mebe Chir Sheragi Barudu Chimba Latinji Nede Semla Triba Mechi Traba Mede Chinji Lole Shindu Nyangele Debe Tara Chindu Dusunda Nambar Shubar Sangye Tamji Shiraji Barudu Chimba Latine Lana Meba Yanda Barazobe Mubarazo Basan Gezo Tedawena Shiragi Barudu Chimbenga Riba Chimbenga Lana Mebenga Minyambada Nyambenga Dunga Tanje Radu Shivar Shibenga Mizubena Dimbar Shivar Jade Shiragi Barudu Chimbenga Meba Tayanda Gade Para Sangade Buddhizo Sharibu Janju Samba Samba Jimbo Deda Shiragi Barudu Chimbo Samola Labarjao Pene Jomde Denge Dele Shende Janju Samba Samba Jimbo Papa Jereze Wanju Lezo Shijawa Jine Lezo Rigi Bu Dede Shino Dede Shinji Jidara Kyuki Tempa Shindu Sheragi Baradu Jemba Tamola Jebarajati Deji Shabanam Gyan Jesu Yiramo Jomden Degi Degi Tika Selne Sedan Demba Shari Dadi Buddha Janju Semba Semba Shembo Papa Jereze Wanju Da Tamze Dan Dembe Kore De Da Dan Adam Mida Amayin Dan Bizar Shibe Jidin Yiran De Jomden Degi Sumba Longo Baratu. Page 11. Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature and things. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, "How should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, "O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eye, no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these all the way up to, there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all bodhisattvas hold the wisdom gone beyond. And because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as the truth, where there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. Tayanta Gandhi Gandhi Paragati Parasamgati Bundi Soho. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said, and then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that gathering in the world with its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praise the word of the Blessed One. So ends the noble discourse on the essence of wisdom gone beyond.
나도 그래. 나 보고래. 아니, 그러니까 뭐 이거 집에 나네. 내가 자세 참조선 봐. 아니, 자세 좀 쉬어라. 제배 진죽 수업생데. 아니, 로테도 진죽 좀 보스. 이 송을 해서.
We now, here on Thursday, turn our attention to the Mahayana Dharma. In the Mahayana Dharma, there is this particular text, the Way of the Bodhisattva, composed by an heir to the Buddha, Shantideva himself, and this is our text tonight.
다 되게 인도 양아도 대받침도 최생다 대받침도 최생인데 아니 다음 수주보다 최스 지당아도 최장 최켈렘바다 말렘바신 개발지기가 다 최켈렘바 있나양 아니 최켈렘다리 망보 다 되나는 아주 남배 최도 이마이나 아니 되 다 랑기 켈랭이 차네 디바 침보다 디바 중호신 최를 많이 시에서
Then in this Mahayana Dharma, the Mahayana Dharma of this particular text, the way of the Bodhisattva, when we consider spiritual practices generally, religions generally, they begin with an acceptance of the premises of the spiritual practice or rejection of them. This is one important difference. Among those who accept the premise of a spiritual practice, then there are various kinds of spiritual practice. From the standpoint of the Buddhist has, in terms of view, an important consideration, from whence comes a differentiation into two forms, that of the foundation vehicle and that of the Mahayana vehicle.
티바 침보다 티바 중국은 다 최제 고 티바 침보 최 임바다 티바 중국 최 임바 아니 개발적으로 간에 연결해서 나와이나 나랑 삼로단다 꿀lungu 거네 개발 차별해서 꿀lungu 돈에 아니 라니 지부 대화다 되게 동네다 지도 삼바 땅아이나 티바 중국 최로 차그래 아니 랑이 지고 삼로마다 마싱 심제 탐지기 동에다 제와 대화다 대버 이제 삼로 꾸는 돈 땅아이나 아니 다 티바 치고생 자기 열에서
This difference then between the foundation vehicle and the Mahayana vehicle is the important difference here, and it emerges based upon a consideration of the intention underlying the practice and the thought process involved in the practice. For those who are self-interested and whose investment is in securing personal contentment and finding relief from personal pains and sorrows, this informs the foundation vehicle. Less incapacity than the Mahayana vehicle, which is a divestment from self-interest, mere self-interest, and an investment in the plight of sentient beings generally who share in common happiness as well as pain. The wish to endow them with happiness and to part them from their pains is the refined intention of the Mahayana Dharma.
내가 가리 고추고 유바이네 땅아도 단다 최년의 셰 단다 망아도 제대로서 아니다 최시년 지요 제가 최시바다 년바디 가리치도 시기요 가리치도 년기요 아무kulung도 제바체 kulung치는 랑기 대두를 저와 쳐보자 랑기 대두지고 삼을 단계도나 최대다 디바 중원을 차버래 다디 랑기 대보게 최년시 제바 대양 아니 즉 시행기 때도 시행기 때와 루바다 동에 세베치도 삼로 땅아이나 아니 고티 받침도 치었어 나한테 대신 바로 잘보라 빼디나 아무거나도 최니시 집어들라 빼자는 시달 파트나 시 삼로 땅으로 해서
Here then is the refined intention. And whatever the activity, in particular tonight, it is the activity of gathering together as a class and providing instruction in the Dharma and listening to the Dharma. That's what we have gathered here to do, to exchange in listening and instruction in the Dharma. And this follows from an intention. When the intention begins with self-interest, so that one alone parts themselves from pains and finds contentment, and one's scope is their own well-being. This would make of the activity of listening and instruction in the Dharma of the foundation vehicle of lesser scope. But to listen in another way that is invested in the common welfare of all sentient beings in an endeavor to part them from their pains and to find for them contentment, when this is what informs this activity of listening to the Dharma and providing instruction in the Dharma, then this activity becomes the Mahayana Dharma. And just as the Mahayana Dharma is made in this way, following this refined intention, it informs any activity. This is an example, the exchange in a Dharma class.
다 근데 이들 당만 좀 가르쳐 버려서 당만 좀 되고 전부 취지게 취 가르치게 해서 저어디 직세 아니 취지고야 가르해서 좀다 취지고야 디 아니 가르치는 취 장고를 취 배념에 가르치는 지고를 해서 저어디 내시요 이들 좀 당만 저기 바람도 상말로 다다 시에는 이제 되고 전부도 충무수도 되고 충무수도 대화 가자다 대화 춘주 켈레바 되고 친구수도 때문에 대화 친구 켈레바 그 동해 탐지 바세 투니 랑의 생기 동해 탐지 세투바게 남라라바 이자 되고 친구들 라바레 랑이 동해 지구 세투 대화 지구 투투야게 남라라바 이자 되고 친구 이게 쳬라 라바스 다들 대신 냠내 적을 해서
What follows then is a consideration of what one would do then in their Dharma practice and the purpose of the Dharma practice. Why train at all? Why practice at all in the Dharma? As I mentioned, the commitment is to well-being generally of all sentient life, where instead of this commitment, the investment is in one's own personal well-being. This informs the Dharma of the foundation vehicle. The Dharma of the great vehicle, the Mahayana, is to invest oneself in the well-being of all sentient beings, to dispel the sufferings of all sentient beings. And when this is the objective, then the thorough removal of all pain yields great contentment known to many. This is the great reward of the Mahayana Dharma. To train in this is the Mahayana Dharma.
어딘데 세상 상만 저기 대화다 동해생이죠. 다 대화다 동해생이디 같이 나나로 바 subject로 치다 망보여. 있나 양 단단하도 최시를 잡아 세디기 대화 세침의 대화 세디기 동해 세침의 동해스 어딘데 개발이 어려지 상을
We ourselves, with our pain and with our contentment, when we reflect on our pain and our contentment, that pain and that pleasure may be considered in many ways, but especially in the context of the Dharma, the contentment known in this life and the contentment known in subsequent lives, as well as the pain known in this life and the pain known in subsequent lives.
야, 나간다가도 여와한테 차례스나 아추 제세하기 추 제하기 균생이 가르친 따들이 균생 추 가르친 적으로 해서 지워되기 랜들로 다추 가르치고 해서 야, 다만도 새 치막이 동해되기 세야다 대화되기 두야가 더 달라 다추디 지고하기 균생 냉가가나 어디나 열해서
What is the connection then? The connection is to the purpose, the reason of the Buddha Dharma, why one trains in it at all. One trains in it as one does in sight of securing contentment in subsequent lives, and in order to alleviate pain in subsequent lives. This is the purpose of the Dharma.
말아서 door retreat 동해 내 동해다 대화기 토다 동해다 대화 릭 미드라 요래 이 예배는 땅마저 말아서 사람 밀라 밀루 안돼 밀루 되기 전에 맞을 동해 가르스는 깨가 나지게 동해 미입에서는 깨외 동해 깨외 동해 나외 동해 치외 동해 미입에서는 동해 쪽 깨가 나지게 동해 시리 요래 손었어.
We are 6 realms beings. There are 6 realms of beings, and each has their particular lot of contentment, of pain and pleasure. And there are many kinds of varieties of pain and pleasure. for the 6 realms beings. We ourselves are human beings, and human beings know the pain of birth, aging, sickness, and death. These are the principal forms of pain known to human beings. These especially birth, the pain of birth, of aging, of sickness, and death.
어떠시? 당 알아도 당당 알아도 밀루티 때디 다들 밀루티라 담로 따는 알아도 지도 나라 이바이나 당아도 동해 신나네 동해 최쇼 가르치기라잖아. 다 시외 동해 치료해야 돼. 동해 최쇼 이네 나가 이네 가 택계외 동해 알아도 지도부터 당 채바이나 동해 두스름 받는 데 지원 그래서
With the biological basis of a human body, if we consider it, then consider it in the ordinary, since in our society too, we know that the worst form that pain takes is the pain at the time of death. The imminent departure, that is our death, is the greatest pain to us. And it is followed by the pains of illness and by aging and by birth.
당아도 최 예시체 최고 냠에 제바라 때네 아니 다양 가진 중에 아주 지도 동에 지단 전부 대가란 대기를 해서나 이 말에 아주 동에 삼로 야고 따나 계획 동에도 독쇼 계획 동에도 고축네 아니 가외 동에 나외 동에 치외 동에 강가 고축을 고축을 다 고축이 유바이다 다 계획 동에도 방방샤나 아니 나외 동에 가외 치외 동에 강가 방투글 계획 동에도 마바나 나도 게 강가 용글 세상다 계획 동에도 당고 방거 내가 사실 잘 알아서
Then when we listen to the Dharma, provide instruction in the Dharma, and undertake a practice in the Dharma, then do our concerns resemble then exactly those of society at large, where the notion is that the pain of death is the greatest pain of all? No, it does not follow the same way. In the case of one undertaking their practice, they recognize that birth is the greatest pain of all. Birth is the greatest pain of all because it precipitates all the other forms of pain that follow. Following birth, one ages, grows ill, and dies. Should one wish to abandon death, avoid the pain of death, first one must avoid the pain of birth and all that it precipitates in aging, sickness, and death. If one is able to then abandon, divest from birth, then the other pains too are divested from naturally.
that in the Indu, Dama church singing Sedilla, Jawash, New Sechimata, Jawapa Chimbo Yores.
Now the Dharma practice has a small, slight connection to concerns in this life, and the greatest connection to concerns in subsequent lives.
Sedilla, 대화 토게 대화 요 말을 대화 토게 요 말을스나 이때서 요를 대화 자자 주니슈 요시기 그나 수수가 내나서 시와체야다 시듀 강에 많이 와다 남자 많이 와들래 팽기를 팽바 요를 이나양 저거 조 커뮤니티 이 말을 세치마 디니파 개와 약골래야 돌아보나 개와 고는 먹어야 이게 맨날 개와래 뭐 있나 개와 약골래야 미 Though is there no pleasure, no happiness to be found in the present life? Certainly there are pleasures in the present life. Some 10%, maybe some 20% of our pleasures are those known in the present life. For instance, in this life, less preoccupation with our physical pains, and so less pain, less anxiety at the time of death, and so then less pain at that time. There is then some benefit here, but the important contribution to well-being is in well-being in subsequent lives. Best of all is through one's Dharma practice to have made unnecessary the reincarnation at all again in a subsequent life. But if this isn't yet achieved, at least to have some ability to determine one's fortunes in subsequent lives,
to avoid a fall into a hell realm, to secure a fortunate rebirth. These follow from a dharma practice.
한도 디니파 소소 삼로다 야체를 땅투나 세디기 되어라나 신주리 니뉴리 세침에 되어서는 치고래 망고래 뒤규리 뭐가지래 어디서 인디 다 치면 되어도 되어 친주다 친구 집도 친구들 하비가 다시 제고로 와 이제는 인디 치면 되어도 개체 어쩌고 그래서
Now, if we just broaden our outlook so that we recognize that the pleasures in this life compared to the pleasures in all subsequent lives are comparatively trivial, then we know to invest in the greater satisfaction of all the contentment in subsequent lives.
세디기 되어서는 아주 유르고 있는 미스직 로자스직 다른 로자스직 되어라 세침에 되어라는 로 붐붐 밀렌디 되게 로기 되어 그 시기였잖아. 근데 뒤쪽에 찬이네 좀 치라케바 요래서
In this life, the pleasures we would know for at most 100 years or so, at very most. But pleasures and contentment in lives to come span many hundreds of thousands of years and many millions of years. So from the standpoint of their duration, that contentment in subsequent lives is much greater.
야, 다들 제가 쇼라 라비아가 준주고 나왔다. 아주 냠내 오늘 제 거야 돼. 아주 친주고 냠내. 왜 뭐시다 친주고 냠내데 제고요. 다들 제가 친주고 냠내 대고도 랑게 제 투바. 랑 랍투바 근데 제발라 한국 때라 해봐도 삼어 고바. 근데 지고요. 다른 내가 랍투야게 뉴바 용해야게. 아니 교육 원도 아니 친구가 냠내는 랍투야지도 전바다 시신 아니 봐요 대주 땡투고 그거다 대주 땡야 치도라 아니 나도 제주고 이거 바르바숨 근데 다 근데 봐요 대시 근데 땡투야 장주 쌤 줄라 근데 땡투버 쳐발라 장주 쌤 장보랑 줄라 장주 쌤라 라비아 좀바다 트로고 와 요 근데 치도라 좀바다 장주 쌤 줄라 깨바다 깨야라 트로와 용아 치도라 아니 로 당보 숨시 아니 로 주체네 아니 또 숨고 레송스
And then we train in the way of the Bodhisattva as the practice here now, the real practice with all that it entails, especially the practice of the 6 paramitas and the 4 means of gathering disciples. These especially, the 6 paramitas and the 4 means for gathering disciples, we must undertake ourselves. And in order to do this, we must become informed as to what they are, and we do this through our learning and through contemplation and meditation. This is absolutely necessary. And then so that we do have a capability, a power, an ability to engage in these, we must accumulate the causes for this. We must have the basis for training in this way. That basis is made up of our mindfulness, our vigilant introspection, our conscientiousness. And so that we become informed regarding these and understand these, the way of the Bodhisattva presents them to us in the 3 middle chapters. But for us to ever be invested in these, mindfulness, vigilant introspection, conscientiousness, we must have first that enthusiasm and aspiration to bodhicitta, the mind of awakening. And so to develop this enthusiasm and aspiration to the mind of awakening, the first 3 chapters of the way of the Bodhisattva, and in this way, 10 chapter texts emerge.
장주 선배기 냠내 지도 네 수배기 냠내 제디 장주 선배기 냠내 나네 또 치슈지 자기요 제단다 수배 랑기 녀바라 아무튼 녀바징이라 아니 수바 고미하게 냠내 지다 장주 선배기 냠내 때 시기요 제단 데데이도 다 알아주고 뇌백이 뇌뇌이 되라 아니 치 말한 비지된 연락 체나 말아서 공할 가기 민도 공할 많이 갑자기 공에 잘했어야 돼 자디 뭐스면 치 아니 대마이 봐 말아서 셈난게 유모도 줄라야 자기 명단 고 자기 뭔지 체네 아니 고 유모들라야 야 갑자기 자고야 어떤 데서 뭐니 빼다 되는 시기 열어서
Then in this 10 chapter text, The Way of the Bodhisattva, in our exchange of the Dharma, in listening and instruction, where have we arrived? We've arrived at this section having to do with the mighty practice of the Bodhisattva, their tolerant forbearance, as a most critical practice of the Bodhisattvas. When another hurts one tolerates with forbearance the harm done to one. The text advises, in the world where we have notions of others who dislike us, who intend to harm us, we name these our enemies, our adversaries. There's one classification of adversary. Then another two, the mental afflictions themselves, afflicted minds themselves as enemy. Identifying these two notions of who are adversaries and then examining this is where we have arrived.
Oh, yeah, Tangarando Jidengi Gala Chiksutu Magas and dressing it, call a Soba Gomba Yina, and Ketchambo Yoba. And call a Kapa Yan Jidengi around the dressing it, to Tapa Damar, the Hawk, to Chilla Panto, Tichilla Nuki, the Kandasu Nuki, to Jizzy Yore, Panto to the Jure, and Pal Tulum Chevaina, Pajudian, you watching around Pantoba. 하장 그런 소 교배다. 아니 배랑 편도 전부 지하게. 어디되게 나 규수 교회 온게 되게 요래. 아니 냠내 랑게 쇠배 냠내 제발라 때네. 아니 랑게 유무 시야다. 아니 랑게 또고 거는 건도 배야 되는데 망고 요래스. 나 유무 그 자승에들라 아니 되게 요래나. 다티 요 말에서 어디지 저 요래스.
Then those others who we think dislike us, intend to harm us, do harm us, and when they do harm us, the practice of tolerating that harm, forbearance toward those who do us harm, this is an all-important practice in our world in a manner of the Bodhisattva, who recognizes that the notion of a adversary is a changing one. At one time, this other party will perhaps harm one. At yet another time, they might assist one. There's a time always for both. And especially when an attempt is made to harmonize, to find commonality with the adversary, then change occurs. Patient forbearance then produces realizations and reduces afflicted minds and afflictions. But when the mental afflictions themselves, afflicted minds themselves are tolerated, is this ever constructive at all? And no, the answer is it is never constructive at all to tolerate afflicted minds.
Oh, yeah, today in the Matan, you must sing it like a doing so your mark for poach and same poach and any quote in the Kanta call it Yabucheda. And it's a call to never get a possible governor, Pengirisna, Kayan Pengimares, or that Mabea to the cousin of that, some cousin woman to the woman that she had the Junju City, Timber and Britain, Tamje Penda Dejeba. Nimunamni Tenjena. Then
one ought never to tolerate, to placate afflicted minds, because there will never be any moment at all when by tolerating them, they later turn around and provide some assistance or benefit to one, ever, never at all. To emphasize this, verse 33 on page 58 All other foes that I appease and wait upon will show me favors, give me every aid. But should I serve my dark, defiled emotions, they will only harm me, draw me down to grief.
어디시 다들 가서 들어오면은 시에서는 다 뜻이 미세 잠고지 간다다 간다다 수수고 셈나라 요조고 다다 니모드죠 아니 간데스 되어스나 랑게 셈저로디 만족이 니모드죠 컴베나 되니 드로보로지 아주 셈디 대사게 컴바게 드롱간로지 어디나 돼요 세단다 곧 거기 셈나 되니 드로보 니모드죠 셈다 수 니오신 샤바이나 아니 건조게 니모드죠 가도 가두이나 너바제 동해때 아무도 지금 말해 텔레 셈나게 니모드게 당분이 봐 당분이 용마죠 용나야 파까 깨듯이 너바진 까토나 아니 고수들로 동해 용 거야 근데 요 말에 세단 대인이 아니 셈나게 니모드 니오마제가 니모드 가두이나 봐 까토 점토가 지고래서 지들이 전화들에서 뭐지
This verse was the focus last week. We don't need to provide any new explanation to the verse here. Yeah. The point to make is that the mind is like the dormitory where afflicted minds reside. This mind, our mind, is host to, is the residence of afflicted minds. And if they are allowed to remain, then all they ever do is do violence. And so then the objective would be to prevent them from ever taking up residency in the mind, and if they have already, to turn them out. So to turn them out and to stop them cold so that they do not enter again. This is the objective.
Oh yes, that is that you move to get the seminar about post 거기 강변나라 들어가는 너버지 미주 강변나 대나 맞대고로 맞대마지 사실은 그 너버지로 되나시 니모드들 한게 셈나라 도 샤샤 그 준너버지네 파스보 겁네 대버지나 아니 가르치기래스 그래서 맞다 딜라 저니레스 이게 수구 샤샤나 랑게 셈나 누구래 랑게 룰레 누구래스 니제 다 당보 셈나 너버들라 아니 진주고 찍할 자와 가르된 것은 이 단들이 와도도 대다 유린 진짜 다줄바 네바 서로 패배 규칙보 다기 닝라 네버 네잖아 하는 닝라 네버 네잖아 코와 지금의 가와 칼라 유르스 원래 제단다 셈나 네버 쿵 빼시기 어레소스
Afflicted minds have taken up residence in the mind as though it were a dormitory for them, a residence for them. These mental afflictions that are violent, like violent bad actors, in a place, if they are allowed to remain in that place, then all they do is do violence. And so one oughtn't tolerate them at all. If one does tolerate them, what follows? Mental pain and physical pain. The verse indicates how it is that mental pain follows in verse 34. If thus my ancient and unceasing foes, the wellspring only of my growing pain, can lodge so safe within my heart, how can I live so blithe and fearless in this wheel of life?
Oh yeah, that is the 당보되게 대다로 유린 윤차 자주 봤어. 대다로서 다 강도 섬나 칸데스 뉴기요 네가 제발에서 나스 아니 그 통만 매받은 가지고 샘 뭐마 통만도 개와 망부르라 샘가 냠도 용네 아니 가지고 샘나 그 제네 아니 가지고다 동해 망부 용쭉 살래 배 제반에 개와 망부 동해 용 살. 단다이네야 그 다들 배가서 개가 나지게 동해 제 신발에 다 단도 맞도 맞에 샤바이나 그 윤차바지 두바 윤 대가나 내주바이나 모발라양 거기다 동해 무튜디 양주야 임바디 다 진예의 술에 근데 동해 양주니게 드라줄 바스데 근데 가지고 동해 때니게 드라줄 베 니모바스 어디지 숨어
Then to explicate the verse, if thus my ancient and unceasing foes, if thus indicating this way, the manner in which afflicted minds do violence are harmful. This is indicated by thus. My ancient and unceasing foes, ancient and unceasing. Ancient as emerging from beginningless time and being involved in innumerable, countless rebirths over all of this time, involved in conceptual thought. They have inflicted pain. This they've done countless times already. And presently, this pain inflicted by afflicted minds continues in the obligatory birth, aging, sickness, and death that their presence precipitates for us. Now then, the wellspring, these mental afflictions are only of my growing pain. If they are allowed to lodge so safe within my heart, how can I live so blithe and fearless in this wheel of life?
뭐야, 제대 이리 다 자줄바 되기 아니 가르치겠어 너베 초 안도로 너바 셈나라 마지바 셈나 딱베 동해제야 베 무투니 베 루제부잡네 동해 뇽데 루 단다 여바이네 동해베 망고 셈나 남자 지자 망고 용고야 근데 동해 망고 초바도 아니 마 용으로 마다야 패와 제약이 규칙부디 아니 수레스나 유모데레스 니모만도 심방도 지dengi 나랑들로 공에 가기면 공알 넣어가지 그래. 오 건중알 넣어가지 그래. 어디에 세야기 아니 코스 두고 두사기 자 나랑도 두균 지dengi 자세야 되주기 먼저 때 동에 표를 지그랬으나 시토고 말했어. 이 표를 지금 규칙부터 유모 단진다 안진이 이게 손으로지. 이니버디 되죠.
If thus my ancient and unceasing foes, these ancient and unceasing foes, named foes here, are the afflicted minds, the wellspring only of my growing pain. Wellspring as the source, the one and only cause of the various pains. These are the pains that are physical pains. They're physical pains then amplified again by the anxiety that they cause. This anxiety, all of the pain, these are all caused by the only cause, afflicted minds. And afflicted minds that are likened to foes, afflicted minds increase the pain and suffering we experience. Ordinary adversaries in the world haven't got this sort of influence that they can inevitably and incessantly increase the pain that we face. This alone, afflicted minds creates for us by the mentality to grasp at the ostensible self and to cherish the self. These two cause of all mental affliction.
뭐야, 근데 이들은 다 근데 유모니부 테스 근데 다기 닝스도 가도 돼 가도 수부 닝세데 말이야 닝스다 셈나 그러면 네버지 내 자나 셈나로 고 내장도 전에 주 대상 마마도 뭐지 샤바였나 아니 당아주 코알라 그랑게 코 내세기 아니 다 아주 코아스네다 강바스네 디나라 아니 지과메바 배샹암다메바 배 기부치네 대학 저와제 요르스나 저와제 요마레스 저와제 요마르 배는 다 배도이나 배는 아주 수수 이 라고나 매트하고 매요 매코랑 게다 사실 쓰고로 메디코랑 사실 쓰고 라시래 라고나 멜레스나 메디파 마유나 가다 라고 치기로 와 메디파 육토와 있는 라고 치야 돼요 말로 제가 디나시 이모디 셈네 맞대서나 아니 셈다 대화토에서 요래 그래서 이모디 셈나 간다 무트 내가 있나 아니 대화토에서 요 말했어 what did you pay the 지금 시기 요래서
If thus my ancient and unceasing foes, the wellspring only of my growing pain, can lodge so safe within my heart. By heart here, we don't mean the organ of the heart, we mean the mind itself. If the mind itself is allowed to remain residence for afflicted minds, then how can I live so blithe and fearless in this wheel of life? Then allowing the afflicted minds to remain as residents in the mind, is there any hope at all of a life that is free of anxiety? There is no hope for this at all. There is no hope for this at all, and this is illustrated by imagining one has taken into one's hand a burning coal. So long as the burning coal is in one's hand, it will burn as the heat of the coal that it burns, that it will burn one is its nature, is the nature of heat. And until it is tossed, then that coal in one's hand will burn one. Once it is tossed, then it will no longer burn one. It is no different with afflicted minds. When they are banished from the mind, deposed from the mind, then there is the prospect of contentment. But so long as they remain resident to the mind, there is no hope at all for contentment.
뭐야, 맞아, 엄마, 진짜 보고 가도 준줄라고라, 준줄라도 기행이 빼도 그러잖아. 루다, 루산이 짱게 열와, 짱게 니디 아니 배짱라, 루루사게 자라나 냠도 샤샤나 안에 루라, 딱 가도 있는 대화 탑에 콜라 샘레메야다 루도 동해 마요비 고급이요 말았어. 그래서 군이 카가샤나 아니 동해 숭접 제투로 숭접 제투로와 어디나시 유모당 샘니데 가도 냠도 되버리나 아니 샘라 다음에 대화 토비하게 고급이요 말았으니 빼자는 숭고도 좀.
Then when we were young and learning the way of the Bodhisattva, that is, we were young students and the instructor was teaching the way of the Bodhisattva, they do so illustrating this through the lesson of a wolf in a flock of sheep. So long as the wolf is there with the sheep in the meadow, no respite, no calm, no moment free of anxiety is possible to those sheep, so long as the wolf is among them. It is no different for the mind when the mental afflictions afflict it, so long as afflicted minds are present, there's no possibility for contentment.
어이, 배신 받을라. 난 드시고 빼드리시고라. 배나 뉴모디 세미나를 파마든 받지 샤 콜라 탄도 빼라와지 그거 곰 대바이나 아니 간디저레스나 롤라상 베 롱아몰라 차된 얘기 가서 semje지 아니 티어로 티기 셀라 도스 장지주 난도 실레 다와이나 고 로딜 차는 대와 딱이요데 이네 간지 티디기 셀레 샹 동에 되기로 와 세상 고 롤라 차는 티기 제 다와 마시 아주 이모션나 샤네 대화 로잖아 티도지요레 스페셜레스.
And another metaphor illustrating another metaphor for illustration what happens when one does not eject, does not depose afflicted minds from the mind is a person, a creature who loves sweets, infatuated with sweets, presented with honey on the blade of a knife, and they lick that honey on the blade of the knife carelessly, so consumed by their love for sweetness and honey, they're licking the blade of a knife, and the danger is present in just the same way.
양주 된다 개개도 된데 빼들 자네는 즉시 저기 요레스에다 들려 다 인디 다 니바디 가르스나 다 셈는데 봐마서 룰란데 그래서 룰란네바 제바다 준주고 지가르스는 되와들 되오마들 거에 저라 수면 예속 수스 또제 샤마르 주버 데다 기타니 예데 로네 차바 자와나 내는 달라 대와 칼라 예스 달 룰란네바디
So these are the metaphors used by our teachers. Now, the next verse follows to indicate how it is afflicted minds harm the body. In verse 35 on page 58, and if the jail guards of this prison, of the prisons of samsara, the butchers and tormentors of infernal realms, all lurk within me in the web of craving, What joy can ever be my destiny?
오야 다디네 당부되기 다디 가르스나 코에저라 스페자도 코아디 정안의 베자 정안은 좀바 두자도 전에 정안 알레서나 아니 라바 강바 차단 담 담제네 라마메바 책으로 와 어디나시 코안 알레서나 아니 가르치기로 했으나 아니 거기 짝다 담아나시 레다 이모니가 수 담바 담네 라마메바 책으로 했어 베스티자를 숨고요 해서
And if the jail guards of the prisons of samsara, straightaway samsara is likened metaphorically to a prison. In the worst high security prisons, one enters and is immediately bound, immediately cuffed, hand and foot, and shackled. All freedom is taken away from one. Samsara is likened to a prison. For the moment one enters samsara again, then one is bound and all freedoms are taken from one.
야, 그때는 이제 정관나라. 아니, 좀 죄송해요. 죄송하게 아니 저 담바체 저담 아니 담이 배치는 쇼레며 속으로 와. 대나신 아니 밖에 코나라. 다 녀소 녀 그나 그 녀소 녀월 배자는 송도 녀월 제와 있나? 아니 녀월게 다 레시 레시 배다 수수고 레지 또 클럽에게 녀외게 다 밖에 내도 니모게 인조게 아니 랑라서 다 간지 이 전송하게 또 다음에 타려야 매가 수요가 나지 레더니 못되기냐 아니 말아도 전송하다 자와체네 아니 또다 자와게 담바치 그래서 어디 배자를 해서
And if the jail guards of the prisons of samsara, in prisons there are the prison guards, those who cuff you so that they won't lose track of you and monitor you in your unfree state. In samsara, which is likened to a prison, and then here particularly, the butchers and tormentors of infernal realms, the hell realms as one place within samsara, there the butchers and tormentors are those who would be likened to guards in the prisons. That is, the butchers and tormentors are the karma and the klesha, the karma and the afflicted minds. They are that which keeps one unfree in samsara, likening, here the verse likens karma and the klesha, karma and the afflicted minds to prison guards, butchers and tormentors.
야, 다 틀리면 돼. 시험을 줘 봐. 이다니 서지 시험을 줘 봐. 이다니 다 간다르하게 가난조다 코디 레더 니모니기 손에 손도 세고 가자 손에 다 카르바다 탐지케마다 알케지 시험 먹어래. 알리 토리 덴도 토베알라야 아니 레더 니모디기 베까 토마주 와체네 간다르페 거기 예송아도 주고 아니 직치는 짜다잖니 아니 짜다잡 아니 거기 짜다 담 대신에 가서 죽고 탈사면 수요가 나시 아니 내가 나서 거기 딸 레다니 뭐니고 되게 아니 내가 손이야 같이는 내가 팔아야 마타라 내가 손에 모두 내가 손에 덴도 때문에 도비야 내가 하루 매주가 되게 아니 레다니 뭐지 지기 어려서
The butchers and tormentors, or the karma and the klesha, karma and mental afflictions. These ensure that one continuously lives unfree in hell states, one hell realm giving way to the next hell realm, giving way to the next hell realm with no respite at all. There's no sense even imagining liberation and omniscient Buddhahood. Leave that aside. But even still, there's hardly any prospect of the good fortune of human or heavenly rebirth in fortunate realms. Instead, by karma and klesha, the prison guards, continuous is the experience of hell realms, one hell realm giving rise to the next hell realm, and the next one remaining bound in steel cuffs, as it were, with no way out at all, no escape at all. They're just being one next hell realm to follow the next hell realm, and no good fortune available at all.
예, 대제 인류즈마다 간다르 랑 게데 식수마데 게데로라 착배 자와나스 내나 달라 대와 갈라 유에스 식수마다 시베니베디 다 간다르 랑기 유기 뉴무디기디 아니 셈다 무투디 자와체니 셈베 나라 마마드마지 샤샤바이나 알로 바네 짜네 데데바이나 아니 바게 좀바 자와네 칠로 마타라나지 자와가 주 담네 데바나시 아니 랑 메송게 내를 탈와 마타르바세 담바치 그래 내송은 내를 대차나 아니 랑라다 대화생데 아니 도비가 라와자와 열에서 요마르 대화 용야 파션 대화 암조도 봐야 하고 시다래 제자한테 대화 용야 고급 요마르 쓰는데 뜻이 그래서
And if the jail guards of the prisons of samsara, the butchers and tormentors of infernal realms all lurk within me in the web of craving, what joy can ever be my destiny? All lurk within me in the web of craving. If in the mind, afflicted minds are not rejected, are not deposed, but allowed to remain, then there's no escape from the infernal realms, from the hell realms. And once one has been born into a hell realm, then the prospect of any contentment is entirely lost. How can I live so blithe? What joy can ever be my destiny?
Oh yeah, that is the injury. That is similar never the Lula never give. And that Nimiki, that neta, you mood, that negi never chabu you mood tea, and Shombe Chidu, subject in the Shombe to lot of Kiavastua. The Nimu Tese, the Nimu Tese, and the part of Paya Chidula, Nimu de Panguna, Shida Kabula, had come to Nimu Dizu, Hazang around some Guru, Combi Chesar, some the penny which and come Saduzaba, and around the Nimu de Shomber Chavala. Shiragi Kago Zidan Nimu Pangsidi, Shiragi Betat Kale Kago Chik, a little chadi or Zidan you do Zabata, Nimu Mabaji Shalani, Karchigoresna, who moved to the round of Tonto, Tadamarazo Majiba, Becheka Nazi Dunga Yongoya, Sam Langandra Yongoya, Lula Naza Yongo, switch eversna, Nimudi Chever. Nimudi similar never remember, round of the Kobi Yomars, the Kana Shever. 대단히 모두 봐 점국을 그래서 그 점버대야 아니 지금 감사 점 쳐줘 여러 점 내려고 그랬으나 대야 말해서
Existe 되는 배.
이제 되시는 저도 지금 있던데 되는 제도 스지 대념도 되셔 대달 제시 다기 다디 무슨 두 예벌마 좀 대시 다기 쇠미 토 레시 내지 충을 나야 투교바 나제 되는 대마 좀봐 니모 미용사 스지 되셔 스타트 본다.
These two verses then indicate the pain that is mental pain and physical pain inflicted by mental afflictions. And this is an indication of how it is, how they are destructive as they are, their pitfalls, their drawbacks. And then this is followed by verse 36 to inspire one to make the effort to banish afflicted minds. For the continuousness of pain, the long familiarity with afflicted minds makes the afflicted minds difficult to root out. The afflicted mind, mental afflictions, the klesha, are well known to the mind is very accustomed to their presence, and so it is difficult to eradicate them. It isn't at all easy to eliminate afflicted minds. Nevertheless, if they are allowed to remain, then continuously they inflict the pain of birth, aging, sickness, and death, and physical pains and mental pains, every last one of these pains being caused by the klesha, the mental afflictions. So they must be eradicated. So then, verse 36, I will not leave the fight until, before my eyes, these enemies of mine are all destroyed. For if aroused to fury by the merest slight, incapable of sleep until the scores are settled. Didn't it 60 drink? What about?
네, 생각해요.
아마 네 shloka shi sum. Jovachik shloka sum.
또 저번쯤이랑 말 subject 하가로.
All right, I will not leave the fight until before my eyes these enemies of mine are all destroyed.
subject 가. 당한테 그 진주 대사 진주 연구시나 동해 망고시나야 강체였다. 대사 냠네 대사 당한테 되네. 거기 심중지 거기 비치 어서.
We'll conclude the way of the Bodhisattva here if we go on in an explanation of all the various forms of pain, then it's exhausting. So we'll conclude here and then turn our attention to the cognitive psychology. Excuse me for 1 minute. Consider questions that you might have.
모르겠다. 가지고 샘중 샘중에다 나도 유모다 다다 간 준준나 지시 자리에 가다 샘중이나 지시 자리 요래서
Even in cognitive psychology, we consider minds and mental factors, primary consciousnesses and the derivative cognitive states. And in this framework too, the review of mental afflictions fall into this framework of minds and mental factors.
샘 생이디 당한당한도 거기 조조 샘중 다 샘스도 가서 거기 다 간지 다진도 빼셔야나 이모드도 강반나 대얘기 전부터 오래스 샘디 강바쳐들어 다진 거 어디나 신다 단달 삼지고 다 샘디 말아서 용 수수고 땅에 셈 얘기 셈 얘기 쉐바 얘기 로세야다 어디 셈 되가 나지 다셈 디나라야 아니 가리어스나 아니 심중부터 로마부터 가 냠도 열었다 심중텔라 심중 개와 열 심중 메개와 열 심중 로마테 자산 열에 손스
So a primary consciousness or a main mind is principled, and it's attended by, or it is accompanied by derivative cognitive states, mental factors. In the metaphor of mental afflictions taking up residence in the mind that is like a hostel or like a dormitory, then you have in those mental afflictions mental factors, derivative cognitive states connected to the primary consciousness. When we think of my mind, my intelligence, my thoughts, one's thoughts, all the thoughts, the variety of thoughts and cognitive states may be virtuous, inclined virtuously, non-virtuously, or they may be non-specified, unspecified regarding virtue, non-virtue.
Oh yeah, do you similar mean categories? Same Quran. Do you know that maybe same 땅 do you same style, she style. 남시스 that same 제력이 산 명비숨 따고 그래서 same style. 이시 이시해봤어요. 아니 넘버 쉐바스. 어디 제력이 산 명다 그래서 제력한테 명다 그랬으나 배낭도 땅아도 들어와 same thing이 아니 나도 레 싸봐 레 간다 지금 보게 레 고마 싸봐도 다다 싸고 뭐 싸봐 주어야지 다 레 싸야지 땡제 전에 셈스 명다 버려세 지금 다 유도 버잖아 셈되게 고 아니 거기 유도 유제진 유도도 봐시 또 버잖아 거기 이스 명다 그는 동반이 동의도 be 이시스도 동반이 또 또에 셈되게 거기 이시스 명다 한 넘버 쉐바스도 아니 셈되게 제력이 전에 유도도 빼는 유 맞제바 배 전부 준주 트라바 참모 스르스파스 수수 맞제바 전에 또 버셔봐 인자 넘버 쉐바스 어 셈그 제력이 전에 근데 셈 코나 찍 이제 셈이 뭐 찍어라 근데 제력이 전에 민민다 가죠
제zanzi number shebati and kare majeva kare da majeva
유 맞제바
majeva
라바다 참모
ale dinzo ani kha yewa sheba
어 강가 수수 맞제바 전에 제바 인자 넘버 쉐바스
ordinarily we use some synonyms, mind and wisdom and intelligence, in ways that indicate and emphasize slightly different function within these. When we refer to mind, we refer to where karmas that are accumulated in the past, which are accumulating presently and will accumulate in the future, where they are accumulated to, then this for mind. And wisdom is the comprehension of an object of knowledge and understanding. For instance, we speak of the wisdom realizing emptiness. So here then, wisdom to indicate the comprehension or understanding of an object of knowledge. And then the mind that is involved in a discernment between properties and of objects and things, we might refer to in terms of intelligence. So here then these mind and wisdom and intelligence, all synonyms of mind general.
야, 제가 쌤 하게 들려랬다. 히스리서부터 쌤다 쌤중세디 안타 간에 유지원의 개발치기와 말았어. 유지원의 그 개발치기와 말. 유진지원의 개발 쌤다 쌤중세 가가치기와. 지난 빼제 가지나나 저한테 쌤 로스네 간에 쌤다 쌤중간 걸 로게 되잖아. 쭉 열때 이내 권익이 나로 개발이 유진지원의 유기 유독방과 유기를 봐 따당 안에 아니 곧 쌤들 심중이 제벌 치고를 해서
Dizem ani shun kashi la kare.
어서 번나다 쌤 번나 쌤슬라나 심중도 저 쌤코나 장시행으로 쌤중코나 지행으로 와 이나야 군이 쌤코나 세계윤에 고라니기 따로 제벌이 아니 가르치는 연구를 했으나 유 저기 거기 따당 이거 또 직보 이나양 따당 민저 거의 제례 민저잖아요. 아니 쌤도 심중 제벌 연구를
Then in minds and mental factors, primary consciousnesses and derivative cognitive states, here we'll call minds and mental factors. They are to be understood not in terms of the object, the cognized object that a mind cognizes, not the object, but the cognizer itself, from the standpoint of the cognizer itself, the mind cognizing itself. And differences in the process, in the functioning, in the cognitions determines differences in the terminology for presenting minds and mental factors, which are which among mental factors. So in some texts, mental factors will be lumped in and not differentiated very much from primary minds. Primary minds and mental factors will be lumped together as minds generally. But relevant differences are nevertheless present. All our minds, all our cognizers, differences between them are differences in the process or the manner in which the cognition occurs.
also make it number sheba make it on button make it number sheba yorwa make it number sheba kog yul tagirwa kog yul tadu zamba ani yul tawa tam kog yul thonwa samji make it number sheba tigi ta ngot khorang chele de masu de zor ta dini ba kharichir ta simjung de laga chir simjung de laga kharsa sim yo pena ta sim yo sed ani ajina singe pena yuji cham ti rakware 참았다 라봤다야 아니 오다 침보르다 야 배미 침보르 스타트 다른 거다 아트 진주면도 믿어왔어 되게 야마 셈 파주 요 다니디 다 심중래기 와서
To illustrate this, consider vision and the visual faculty of the eye. When vision, the primary vision perceives its visual object and vision occurs, then the primary mind and vision itself, that process comes to a close. Then mental factors or derivative cognitive states emerge or involve themselves to accentuate and direct vision. For instance, in the visual field, discriminating certain parts of the visual field as minuscule and directing attention to them, or directing based upon the quality of what is seen in the visual field. Any accentuation to vision is by the involvement of mental factors.
다 심중되게 아니 유 이동하다 유배 야 한게 야가 통도자 말은 이걸 차바지 되어지 봐. 소화 되어지 봐. 유 이도 모여 통도 소화 동에 지고 소화지기도 심중에서 말을 통이就是全部基本上我的当通是你等你我们给通是的到底那个嘛基本上特别有的做来的说你心中全部生出来现在心中就是两个我给他sem 되고 와 다들 유인해 봐서 유배 제가 제벌 수수 주게 보라 아니 심중 되게 내가 지금 그래서
And two, in the visual field, when something is found that is desirable, something that one likes, has a fondness for, which causes one pleasure seeing it, or in the case of something that is unpleasant, and when one sees it, one is displeased. This is the responses to vision are mental factor caused responses to vision, or something that is seen before, something that is recalled, something that hasn't been forgotten, and then having not been forgotten can inform one as one engages in their vision, during vision, to say, this is that which I'd seen before. This is that I have seen before. This is the involvement of mindfulness or recollection, the mental factor. These are the recognition and discernment and accentuation that go on in vision by the involvement of mental factors.
c'est 심중 그 제가 디네마드네 아가서 가산 셰브 거는 뭐 타마 샤다 셰라 가산 땡이지 셰라 땡이지 되게 셈 미과라 파 제지도 미과 니메바 미과 지그랑 파 셈네 투바 제도 아니 수지가 심중 땡이지 가산 미과라 네베 가네 아니 셈 마추베 가네 아니 셈게 배 제바 체네 아니 배다 동반이게 되는다 미다부 되는도 제바 칭이도 아니 셰랍스 대다 심중 땡이지다 셰랍스
And further examples are concentration too, as a derivative cognitive state or mental factor. This mental factor places one's attention continuously on a single focal object so that one is not divided in their attention, but concentrated on a single focal object. And then two, so that there may be an analysis and then a close examination that made possible by concentration. That examination and analysis is by the derivative cognitive state of a state of wisdom, that is examining and analyzing an object so as to discover its impermanence or its emptiness. These are other instances of the involvement of derivative cognitive states, mental factors.
유행하는 히랍을 다니 드즈 되서도 아니 히랍을 제일 시켜줘 제스 드는 거 저들 제 동선.
And really what we ought to have turned our attention to just now is the derivative cognitive state of wisdom, the mental factor wisdom, which is one of the 5 mental factors with a determinate object. But we've run out of time just now, and so that will have to remain for next week, and we can pick up with our Q&A right now.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Well, let's begin by hearing the question.
Yeah, yes.
I was watching a teaching by Zhang Rinpoche, the previous Zhang Rinpoche, and he said something interesting about intelligence. That intelligence is not what we think it is, but that intelligence is more of a karmic formation versus being how quote unquote smart you are in this life. Can Geshe-la talk a little bit more about that?
그래서 아니 송름지기 승추직 아니 닌디 잠발라 아니 송 후공마디 후공마디게 아니 승추난데 잠발라 다고 사르직 아니 렌스 중송 데레 아니 송름지기 아니 넘버 쉐바 세리디 맞아 남규게 아니 고아 장 드라기 마레 라 다 넘버 쉐바 세리디 레기 왕기 야마네 뒤체 유로 뒤체기 차 뒤체기 최 아니 지그레 아니 남규 맞아게 미디 아니 릭바 야포 요레스 아니 세리디 단 드라기 마레 레다 뒤체기 왕기 아니 넘버 쉐바 디 세리 요레
Number 7 망고로와 number 7 딱 카두카도 대시 잡고 빼 망고 number 7 봤으나 베타 산제는 단다 샘제 드링 어게 녀와게 샘제네 제네 얘기 딱 람보라토로 람파베 유 람디네로 산제기 유 람보도 number 7 봤다 상류 망고 여러 와서 어디 제단 갑갑 대시 잡고 되네 망고 여러서
There are so many various forms of intelligences. There really are many kinds of intelligences. From the forms of intelligence of hell beings upwards through the awarenesses and intelligence of Arya beings and onward up to the awarenesses and intelligences of Buddha's Sangegi, Gyugi, number a state of awareness in the minds of Buddhas. There are many forms that intelligence or awareness takes.
Oh, yeah, 근데 이 number, but Pagbe Gyugi number 7 남나, that led the Junjeti Bixet, okay, your mares. Pagbe, Tony Mosundu, Dot Sarvegi, that was the Kansa Pagwasla Guru. I didn't have Pagwani Yachene, and then leg number member that Jomangu Yomares. Your mares. But deep mandapilla, leg number member that George and Shep were Zumangu Yores.
So there's always a context for the meaning of intelligence or awareness. For instance, for an Arya who has perceived emptiness, after this event, there isn't in the Arya individual's awarenesses, intelligences, very much that anything at all that is conditioned karmically. So in this context, regarding awarenesses, there isn't much to speak of in terms of karmically conditioned awarenesses, and similarly too in awarenesses of the Buddha, there are no fully ripened karmic results resulting in these awarenesses.
Only Muslim thoughts have a jealous. Yawa Yanjulaki le Kosagi Marwa, Medusamba, the Chirang Tuatan, she Chag Mares. That only Muslim the Matoni, Dinima, Cheni, and it Kota, Koala, Kawalian Guitan, Namset, the leg, George, shape with your response.
So then, for the individual who has perceived emptiness and afterwards karma's conditioning, reincarnation, in cyclic birth are no longer present. Therefore, here it doesn't follow from your observation so much. However, for those before this point, those who compulsively reacquire aggregates and are born into samsara by the force of collected karmas. Here, those play a determining role in states of awareness.
하여튼 그 마들사 돈이 모습도 마토바네 마 가사들라 하여튼 레 상예게 토디 근데 리바 상예 깨와 상예 아니 되게 차상 대화요래서
But for those before the point of perceiving emptiness, those beneath this threshold state who are compulsively born again into samsara by the force of the quality of their karmas, they have qualitatively different states of experience and of awarenesses.
야, 대단하다. 되게 말 아니 수수고다. 즉 거기에 쌤이 뭐 대딜라 박자 가서 상아 야가 샤요이나 세치마디 깨와 상아 아니 오모 타와 아니 거기에 리버 세라 아니 가다 개월 망고 되기도 보라 세대기 레사죠다 저 친구 차들 세딜레 레 녀바사이나 뭐 녀송지야다 오모 마세와다 그 밀레케나야 오모 마상와 오모 마세와 아니 데디키로스 아니 레 상고사이나 밀레케고 마디 아니 오모 세와 오모 타와 오모 차와 이게 강가 되게 제가 열어서
There is correlation, there is a strong connection between the karmas accumulated in the present life, their quality, and their consequence in subsequent rebirths and the state of one's faculties in that rebirth by the determining influence of accumulated karmas accumulated in this life. One might be born into a hell realm where one's faculties are poor, states of awareness are confused, or by the force of one's karmas in the present life, one may be born again a human being, but by the quality of those karmas accumulated, a human being, but with incomplete faculties, or with confusion in states of awareness. These follow from the quality of the birth taken and the quality of states of awareness and the faculties that inform those states of awareness. These range depending on the quality of the karmas accumulated.
그런 거는 예사가 다 숨지 예사가 대생 갈래지는 예배에서 대생 갈래지 딱 주냐 배나가서 나가 제가 제가 나가 말을 도이나 된데 다 아니지 거기 레게 남샤들이 그 빠빠만 외로와 대생
네, 하고.
어디 그다 가지 그 저랑 거기 가도 지는 예배에서
Ale dezindik karokadı dezindik ganjes ani nimbes.
저랑 단다 송지 송지
Ale de ganjes re.
대체상 가리 가도라
Ale gatse ale.
가리데 저 이게 꼴 예배에서
Ale. You mentioned listening to Song Rinpoche's teaching. What was it? What was the topic, the particular topic, or the involved in what investigation of yours? Involved in what sort of topic of investigation of yours did you listen?
It was the Vajra Yogin teaching.
아니, 도지까지 말을. 도지까지
나다 저 이거 최년 바로 왔어. 그래서 나다 저 이거도 최년 바이나 기름다 조림스. 어디나 조래서.
So you were listening in the context of the secret Mantrayana, and there where all important are generation stage and completion stage practices.
약간 기름 가도 있나? 조림 가도 있나? 아, 내가 저시라 시험보다 기름 가도라. 기름 냠슬레버 가도라 다야. 거기 와서 다다 규마 제시해야 되게 차상 삼을 땅고 열어와. 그래서 단 남시에 달래다 저 예외가 되는 냠버에 손으시.
So in the secret Mantrayana of generation stage practices and completion stage practices, in the completion stage, there's no determinate, there's no influence of karmas in the completion stage. However, in the generation stage, as it is an ordinary stage, there consideration of karmas as determining states of awareness is relevant. So it would be in that context that you must have been listening.
뭐야, 맞아. 간다다 기름 날씨에 이 구순 남길 시에고로 구순 남기시도 아니 나랑 좀 계시 파트 숨여로 깨와 시워 파트 숨 정자 정제 정시 숨여로 정시디 계시 파트 숨 정제 기름도 조름 정제들아 아니 구순 남자들어 어쨌든 때 디시도 좀 받아 남시에 저 이거 시기를 해서 놓지
아니 정차 정치당
정제
정제디 바로 들어봐.
아
정제디
저 저부터 네 구순 주고 구순데 간다다 세워 주고 봐도 롱고 깨워 주고 다야데 계시 파도 장순 장제
계시
가리 장그스는 기름도 조름이 장그
일단 이거
정제 구순
정제 구좀 되네.
정자
정자
아니 계시 파도 숨
계시 바로 somla
깨워 주고
la
파도 롱고
la
아니 가라
and case it that in the generation stage practices, one takes the three put the bodies into the path, and there the three put the bodies are the supreme nirmanakaya of birth existence, the sambhogakaya of the intermediate state, and the dharmakaya of the death state. And this framework is of the basis of training, the training itself, and the result of the training. The result of the training is the accomplishment of the three Patavadis, the supreme Nirmanakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Dharmakaya. The means for the training itself, or the means for achieving this, are generation stage practices and completion stage practices. And the basis for the trainings are these three states of birth state, intermediate state, and death state.
Yeah, I need to somebody.
So then we can conclude there. If there are no more questions, we'll recite our closing prayers.
Yeah, Siddhartha.
He's interested to if Bishila would please speak a little more about the analogy of the honey on the sharp blade.
That the suggested any quality songs any chance the chilla any tofoshik jarne and chelegi dani tabeki pech sunso any pedi henda the young just nanda
roll cha roll cha pedi midi semji chele dani 가리를 차 어떤 장들이 차 로자 장들들 샘 차네 아고 장들들래 치들 다 장들들 치노부터 레디디 칼 투샤 다 장들들 로디 라나 라야 치다니 레디들 젤에 다샤로 다샤디 아니 레디디 라나 젤에 뚜꾸로 세단다 롤 때네 차야 롤 때네 라운 되게 로 되고 요데 동해질래로 동해들 레디 다 세단다 디나신 빼디 가르나 뉴무다 이거도 셈나는 뉴무도 요러 뉴무도 라 동해도 마다와체 아니 그 밖에 랑 되었다는 데 대외이나 아니 다 대화 대화를 차는 대화 되기 어때 이내 랑 동해 양과 다들 랑 젤리디 보라 또 그러와 그래서 동해 양과 빼자 버스 뉴무를 프로체나 아니 대화 토야면 동해 이봐 이내 그 대화 수수 대화 되고 열때 이내 대화 말이 동해를 어디 빼자는 시에서
the desire and craving for the flavor of honey causes one to lick a blade, a sword blade smeared in honey. One is attached, one has grown attached to the flavor and wanting the pleasure of satisfying that desire for the taste of honey, one doesn't give any consideration to where it's smeared, and it's smeared on the blade of a sword. And if one licks a sword blade smeared in honey, one will cut one's tongue. And so afflicted minds, we see them, we grow desirous and attached, and we consider pleasures and satisfactions and grow attached to them and fail to recognize the pain that will ensue. Our wishes for satisfaction were attached to getting more of satisfaction, but fail to be aware that this drive for, this desire for what satisfies us is dangerous in this way.
뒤로 빼지는 빼기돼요. 리다 차네. 아니 뭐백 다점네. 아니 하마 와서. 근데 뭐바도 리다제니 뭐바 여러. 뭐바도 저거 아니 리다 sem 추주는 배 라니 부들 개점 강데 리다도 달 차비도 아니 그 달 차비 괜찮네. 나그 뭐백 틀파 러시아 왔다. 근데 뭐백 다점 세기로 와. 그래서 거기 차야도 달 차. 아니 그 대화지 제기 열때 하나 고슈를 동행 내기 열어. 어디나시 빼디나시 간다 장지디 인기 빼디 더 열어서.
And another metaphor is of the deer attached to the deer in the forest, ravished away by a beautiful sound, and so alert to the sound, one sound that they enjoy listening to, that the another sound, the sound of the approaching hunter, they remain unaware of, so that in their enthrallment in a particular sound that they enjoy, the threat, the sound that indicates the threat of approaching hunters is overlooked, and then the hunters draw near and then shoot the deer, and the deer then dies because it was so enthralled by the one sound that it wasn't aware of the other. And then this too, this metaphor of honey smeared on the blade of a sword is similar.
Yeah. Then
we'll conclude here and recite the closing prayers.
이만 통신의 진대 비까지 통통 고스. 이만 통신도.
So the days are getting shorter, so we have to make the classes a bit shorter. Page 14. Right. Page 12.
베네른도 벨레 소니제 카더 양보 카시 사바데 로메 마레제 돈로와이 난데 제웨 원보 바주지 데마스메 제로 군데야 자베 양제 제웨 제존네 템베링바 구산 남게쇼 예네 로베 제나지지 라게 지신 도베 라게네 슈라 제웨 자웨 타게기 로웨 이게 무바스제네 게웨 데바 유레 제유지 템바 렌진 초게 마자방 캬냥 냠바라 규베 초데네 닌제 쳔부 예라 교바이 페데 데제 세와라 제버르쇼 세제 자웨 메주 칠레레 레루 자주 람게 렘레냐 다들 남기 일라 베들지 자외 제바 린도 정주지 라산 르베 튼지 로제지 게게 세제 메다메메 제라 콘도 야외 마바이 남다 란다 제와 마기르지 간세 대바 졸라 주주지 tujen rola zumba de to den namje ta de roje ji raje gyazo jogun gyaguru ji.
From my two collections, vast is space that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief Lishnavata for all those whose mind wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of the paths, the complete teachings, and may I please all the Vattas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the point of the path as I've discerned them. May I hold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I offer this treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following a complete graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.
Dāke chīnyē sāpe jīvā dī, tēndā rāvā kūnā gāmpēntā, chēvārā chēsīn lōsāng rābā yī, tēmbē nīpō rīndē sēchīshā, vārē rāvē kūrvē shīngāndē, tēndā dēvā māyū chūkvē, chērē sēvā tēnzē gyāsā yī, Shabe Sidi Bardu Tengyuruji Chambe Bawan Jidar Kembada Kundu Zangbu Deyan Deshinde Deda Gungi Jesu Dalu Jir Dewa Deda Tamji Raduma Yuzu Jebe Dewa Tamji Mowa Gangla Chodu Ngabade Tagi Gewe Tawa Digu Sambo Chuji Radu Mawaregi Chanjo Semjo Rinpoche Mage Banange Girji Dewa Nyamba Mebayam Pone Gondo Bewaro. I dedicate whatever virtues I've ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drop to shine forever. In the land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Shinra-Zitins and Gyatso, please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantavajra do, realize things as they are. Also, I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue, with the dedication praised as the best, by the victorious thus gone ones of the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. May the supreme jewel of Bodhisattva that has not arisen, arising grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Thank you, everybody. Buenas.